This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our Finance and Audit meeting for the budget Monday, October 26th. My name is Andrea Schott, the Council President and organizer for our virtual meetings. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. The chairperson will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you could sign up to speak at our council meeting by emailing Elisa Tinty, or you could submit written comments by emailing Elisa Tinty at emtinty@kingston-ny.gov or by drop box located outside the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. If you have any audio issues, send a text message to the following number, 845-594-6120. Please note that phone calls will not be answered during the meeting. The number again to text is 845-594-6120. As the organizer, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have is Alderman Doug Coop. Committee members are Alderman Rennie Scott Childress, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, Alderman Steve Shabbat, Alderman Tony Davis. Non-voting council members are Alderman Jeffrey Ventura Morel, Alderman Patrick O'Reilly, Alderwoman Rita Worthington, and city staff, we have Corp Council Comptroller John Toohey, Superintendent of DPW Ed Norman, Deputy Superintendent of DPW Ryan Kuhn, Financial Officer of DPW Mary Jo Wiltshire, City Clerk Elisa Tinty, and Senior Operator of the Wastewater Treatment Plant Alan Winchell. And I think I got everybody. So thank you for your patience. And on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family good health. I now turn the floor to Chair Doug Coop.
To our first meeting as we review the 2021 City of Kingston budget. As you know, this Yes, madam?
Since the meeting was called to order, I just wanted to make an official statement. I will be recusing myself if the superintendent of DPW's employment is discussed and deliberated because I can't leave the meeting because I'm doing the tech part of it. I'll just turn off my camera. Just wanted to make that statement before we started. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is the first of 6 meetings where we will review the 2021 budget and also the capital plan of the various departments. The format that I'm proposing that we go at this various departments. Tonight we'll do wastewater treatment plant with Alan Winchell and DPW with Ed Norman. I propose that we go first with wastewater treatment facility because the number of line items is considerably smaller than DPW. So Ed, if you could just hold for a while, we will get to you for sure. The format is to, as in the past, and I'll just review this because it's been a while since we did this, is to go line item by line item, as in the budget sheets that have been distributed to you electronically, and we'll probably do some screen sharing tonight, and hard copies have been placed in your mailboxes, so everyone should have the available data. But in summary, what we're looking at is the budget, this year's budget for each line item compared to the same line item last year. And we look at the difference, the variance. The methodology is in the column to the right of these sheets, you will see the variance. Favorable or unfavorable. Favorable means good news. That is, the cost is less than we thought, less than it was last year, or the revenue was last year. So any item that does not have a parentheses is what I call favorable and can be considered to be good news to the city. Either it's costing us less or we're bringing in more revenue. So that's what the parentheses or lack of parentheses mean. At the bottom, what we call the southeast corner of the bottom line, and to the right is the total variance. That is the revenue minus the expenses. And again, we're always looking at variances, not the absolute numbers, but the differences. And we worked through this the last 2 or 3 years, and I think most of you are familiar with that. So with that, I'd like to proceed with wastewater treatment, which is page 169 in the budget book and is sheet number 1. And Alan, I'm going to ask if you could walk us through, if you'd like to make any opening comments, but then I think the committee members will have the variances between us, and then obviously we're going to look at things that, big numbers that are very favorable or very unfavorable. Why are they unfavorable, or can we believe that they're as favorable as they are? So that's kind of the approach I'm proposing today. And I think this is just all review. We did this last year, the year before that. So hopefully everyone's familiar with the methodology. So we're looking at, in all cases, variances. So Alan, with that, I'll give it to you to talk. If you want to give us an overview of the wastewater treatment, or we can go right directly to the line items, whatever you prefer. If you have any open statements you'd like to make.
No, not really this year, Doug. It's a little different being on camera versus being in person with you. But if anybody has any questions, you see here, there's only been a couple increases in the 81. You want to do 8130 first, Doug?
Well, I would like to make one statement, Alan, and that is,
sure.
Overall, wastewater treatment facility is showing a favorable variance of $47,394 overall. Now, of course, there are puts and takes in the makeup of that, but overall, you're looking at a variance of just a little $11,000. I wanted to make that as an introduction.
Okay. Is there any questions from anybody?
Yeah, I would, I mean, it's great to see a favorable variance, but we want to believe in the credibility that this is all going to happen. One question I would have is in line item 483. I'm sorry, 484, chemical materials and supplies. We're looking at a favorable variance there of $43,000. Now that's good news, but how does that happen?
We went through the budget this year and we compared the last 3 years to see what we had spent out of that line. The polymer is a big part of that we use for the dewater the sludge. And we came back with that number this year. We were able to try to cut that number down to make sure that it was going to work for us. John did the last 3 years, and that's what we came up with. We're hoping that we can hit the number of 60,000 this year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The other question I would propose on line item 2123 in the revenue line, the other income from leachate, showing $110,000 unfavorable.
Yes, we heard they were taking the leachate to Beacon, and now I heard it's going up to Glasgow. So really not sure what's going on with it. I mean, John, if you want to speak a little bit about that.
John, you're muted.
Yeah, turn your mic on.
Sorry. So yeah, we have, our understanding is that Ulster County Resource Recovery is bringing their leachate to more places. Will be bringing their leachate to more places other than the city of Kingston next year. I spoke with their Tim DeGraff over at Opera, and so we accordingly had to reduce the revenue budget for this line item. We don't have an exact figure what that number is going to be, but we know there's going to be a significant reduction of the volume that we process.
Doug, I believe you said that this was unfavorable by 100 and something, you said?
$110,000, right? In other words, yeah.
Well, the
The
recommended,
revenue is down $110,000.
I don't know where you got the 110 from, or you're saying from last
That's
year.
line item 2123
You're saying from last year?
compared to last year, yeah.
Okay.
Steve Shabbat? Steve Shabbat, please.
Yep. All right. Right in that same area, Alan. I'm just wondering, why did port use costs go to that's quite a substantial drop? I think $10,000.
Well, it's probably going to be because our budget went down. They're going to pay 10.42% of what our O&M budget. So if our O&M budget dropped, their portion's going to drop too, Steve.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't realize it was based on a percentage. Okay.
Yeah, they own 10.42% reserve in the plant. So with that, they pay 10.42% of the O&M budget.
Okay.
Doug, Michelle has her hand up.
Doug, Michelle's hand is up.
Okay, Alan. Sludge disposal.
Doug, Michelle's hand. Doug,
Michelle's had her hand up.
Michelle's hand is up.
Michelle Hirsch, please. Yes, Michelle, sorry.
Hi, this is Alder. I had a question regarding equipment being zero and then 2 pieces of equipment on the capital plan. Are those going to be bonded?
Yes.
Are you asking a question on the capital plan?
Well, I'm asking a question related to equipment on line 211 as zero. And then there's 2 items in the capital plan for sewer.
Yes.
So
Everything on the capital plans is intended to be bonded.
okay, thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Can I request that everyone who is not speaking mute themselves? I don't know about anybody else, but I'm getting weird noises.
Steve, Alderman Shabbat?
Yeah. Alan, at 484, chemical materials and supplies. I mean, that's good news that it went down like 40%. Why is that? Is it the cost? Are we using less of whatever that is?
Yeah, I just spoke to Doug about that earlier, that we had used the last 3 years to see what we had spent here at the plant. And we made a decision in the budget meeting to try to cut it by that much and see if we could get through the year with it.
I'd also like to point out on that the original budget for 2020 was only $67,101. The reason why the modified budget is higher is that there was an encumbrance that carried forward from last year. Traditionally, the budget has been in the $60,000 to $70,000 range annually on that account.
All right.
And that's going back to 2016.
Michelle?
Hi, just wanted to confirm that we are completely finished with Aslan now.
We still budgeted money for them this year, 25,000. I think Kevin's here. If Kevin would like to speak a little bit about that, it's better for Kevin to speak than for me to.
Yeah, I just didn't see anything on the line, so.
Aslan is not concluded. I made reference to some of the things that were going on in the finance meeting. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact me and I can go into detail.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification, there's legal fees are budgeted in the consultant line. There's nothing budgeted for the actual Aslan contract. That's where the that line 470 Aslan contract, that's where the actual payments for the equipment used to be budgeted.
Mm-hmm. And Alan, line 498 sludge disposal, favorable by almost $26,000. Why is that? That's good, but why? You're muted.
I know, I got it. Sorry, Doug. Again, we went back over the last couple of years to see what we spent on sludge disposal the last 3-4 years. John goes back 3 years. And we felt, again, that we could cut that line and try to cut it a little closer to make it, to get the 10% that we're asking out of each one of the budgets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Doug, that number $215,000 represents almost exactly what we spent the last 2 years. And these questions, just to give you an idea, it'll be a common theme throughout the budget with the 0.4 accounts. Almost every department that you look at, as the council knows from my regular updates, that we have been pretty good and we've run at positive variances budget year after year. There was a concerted effort to really look at these 0.4 accounts as closely as we could, and we do every year, but we definitely squeezed what we could this year. So they'll definitely be tighter, and you're going to see that as you go through. So expect this theme throughout the entire budget with those 0.4 accounts.
Alan, I'm very pleased to see that your total expense variance, $173,000, is just about 9% of last year. Now that sounds pretty challenging. I mean, I'm glad to hear it, but it seems to me a very challenging target to hit.
Doug.
Yes.
Doug. Alderman
Yes, Tony Davis. Tony.
John just spelled out what that was, Doug. He just said that you're going to see that theme through all the departments, that they were trying to hit that 10%, reduce their expenses by 10%. John just spelled that out. So every department is going to come in with that they're going to be less probably by 10%. Am I correct, John? Is that what you just explained?
Yeah, roughly 10%, in some cases more, right? I mean, so what we're looking at as part of the budgetary process is as part of the plan that the mayor presented, the council adopted with the expenditure reduction plan with COVID, a lot of that carried forward into the 2021 budget. And you couple that with reviewing the accounts and the performance, and, the accounts are going to be, I still think each budget is very doable, but that margin for error has been reduced throughout the city. I mean, and you're going to see that in every department. But once again, I should point out, as you know, we've run favorable budget variances every year, with tightening these budgets up as much as we did this year, and it was necessary. It will make the budget a little more challenging next year, but at the same time, it's warranted, and I think it's necessary to do that. And once again, like if you take the this department, the actual expenditures in 2019 for this department, which is on page 169 of the budget, is not too far off from what the 2021 budget is.
Okay.
All right.
Tony?
Alderman Tony Davis here. This is our thing, Doug, and the rest of the finance and the rest of the common council to keep them as close to this budget, right? So they are squeezing it in. We're just hoping that in 2021, they're not coming in and asking for more money because they couldn't hit this targeted budget. So that's going to be our job to hold them to the fire that this is a budget you submitted. We're going to hold you to trying to be as close to this budget throughout 2021.
Okay, for wastewater treatment, we see a positive variance of $47,394. That's good. Any other questions on wastewater treatment? Okay, can we move to pumping stations? Bottom line there is a favorable variance of $56,944, which represents almost 17% reduction in expenses. Another challenging target, of course. Big item there is a reduction in line 211, other equipment, $40,000.
Yeah, on that one, Doug, we've been trying to do retrofitting in the pump stations, and we cut back a little bit this year on that one. There is still one pump station we're going to rehab, but there isn't, again, we went through the lines with John, and this is what we came up with, but it's going to be a tough year, especially in pump stations. The plant's been getting a lot of work done lately. Pump stations are going to be a little bit more challenging this year.
Okay. Other questions on pumping station? That's the biggest chunk there of your positive variance. So as Tony's just implied, we'll be watching that one. Other questions on the budget for wastewater for pumping station? Alan, if we could, let's move to your capital plan for wastewater treatment plant. You have a total of 4 items. Yes, Tony?
And Alderman Tony Davis here. Sanitary sewers, is that falling underneath Alan, or is that Ed Norman?
That'll be it.
Okay, thank you.
The capital plan, you want to review your capital plan, which totaled 4 items totaling $170,000. And I'll be the first one to ask, what is a knuckle boom truck?
Okay, so I think Ed must.
I'm sure I'm the only one that doesn't know that.
I think Ed, you asked for 3 items. My only thing that I had on the capital plan that I know of was the boom truck, the knuckle boom. So over that first, and then if you want to touch on the other 3 items. The boom truck is the move or the pull pumps in and out of the pump stations. The truck we had no longer passes inspection, and the boom on it will not pass inspection. I think it's like 1985 or 87, somewhere in that era. It's lived its life expectancy with the city. So we went out, asked Ed Sweeney in the garage to go out and try to find us a medium-sized truck that we could pull pumps with, and this is what we've came up with.
So Ed, and I'm sorry, Doug.
Go ahead, Tony.
Alan, you got 4 items on here. You're saying you only asked for one of these items?
What are the other 3 items, Tony?
Control panel. It says control panel, belt press, $35,000, dump trailer, $10,000, flow recording equipment, $10,000.
That's all you, Alan.
Well, I thought we took all that off, John, and put it into the O&M budget.
No, we took out of the O&M and put it into the capital budget.
Oh, all right. The dump trailer is going to replace 2 dump trucks that are getting very old too. So what we did with Ryan and Ed this year was we decided to try to buy a little dump trailer and put underneath. What we do with that is we use it for the grit that we separate out of the sludge when it first comes in. The control panel is for the belt press. It's 35 years old. We looked at a couple things with that. Buying a new one was well over $1 million. We're doing a little bit of an upgrade between this year's 20 and 2021. So that's what the increase is in that. The fourth one, Tony? I'm sorry.
Tony, are you speaking, Tony? You're
I'm sorry,
muted.
Alan, the last one was the flow recording equipment.
Okay, so what that is in my office, we record all the flows. The recording equipment, the newest one is 15 years old. They're outdated. We can't get parts. So we're looking at buying a new flow recording equipment that will go right to the computer. We'll save money with pens, charts, and that'll save money each year. That'll bring back itself in probably 3 years, 4 years. What we spend in pens, charts, and all the recording equipment and the maintenance to keep them up to date.
Michelle?
Hi, I'm just curious for the knuckle boom truck, if it's like a special order, does it have to be built? How quickly would it come in after we order it and have access to it?
I'm not sure, Michelle. I didn't spec it out. Again, maybe Ed or Ryan could speak on that. Go ahead, Ed.
Ed?
Yeah, when we pull the trigger on that, it's going to be coming from state bid. So whatever we can find will have to be built. Typically, there's 8 months to a year before we can have a build out and delivery. Especially after the COVID, some of the vehicles are out over a year to get. So it's right now kind of rigging stuff to make it work because our current knuckle boom is broken. I think as Alan explained, it will not pass an inspection, New York State DMV inspection, nor a crane inspection. They're 2 separate inspections. So right now it's red tag locked out, going to be set to go to auction.
Thank you.
Tony?
Tony Davis here again. So if it's over 1 year out and this old one is not passing inspection, so what are you going to do in the meantime?
We've been using the electrician's truck to pull pumps right now. It's not meant for that, but it has a jib on the side that we're able to pull pumps with, Tony.
Thank you.
Other questions on capital plan? Any other? Alan? Yes, Tony.
Tony Davis here. I can tell you right now, and I'm gonna this is gonna be with all the departments, and with the economic situation that we're in, and financial and instability right now with with the state and the county, these capital plans are really going to be scrutinized and what we're going to be able to do. And my recommendation is going to be to see if we can hold off on these capital projects, these capital plan projects into next year, if we see if this turns around, this economy turns around. So I'm going to be really scrutinizing and everything that's on this capital project. And if I don't think it's really worthy, I'm going to be a no vote. And so when I ask you the questions, and I'm telling this to all the departments, please have the answers, and because it's going to make a decision, and that's going to help me make my decision, and if I'm going to approve these capital projects. Not to say that they're not worthy. I just, in this time right now, I would love to see the departments hold off on getting as much of these projects as possible until this economy turns around. the city's economic situation turns around. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, Ed Norman.
Yeah, I just want to, in case somebody's still unsure, especially with how we're doing it now, we are currently taking the electrician's bucket truck and rigging it to be able to use to be pulling pumps, which is really not the best scenario, because if we wind up breaking that, then we're going to be down another vehicle. So we're doing what we can do to get by, but it's not a good situation. It's not one that's really recommended. We're doing it out of necessity at this time.
Okay. Any other questions for Alan? Okay, Alan, again, in summary, is proposing wastewater treatment variance of $47,394 and pumping station of $56,944 favorable, and capital plan of $170,000. Okay. Okay, I think we can thank you, Alan, for.
Actually, sorry, Doug. I just have one more question. I'm sorry.
Yep. Michelle.
Regarding overtime pay, that's about the same as it is this year. So that's not gone down at all this year and won't go down next year.
Is that for 8121, Michelle?
Yes.
Line item 103.
Yes.
Yeah, 103 pay, yes. It came down $499. We took some money out. Yes, because there's still call outs out there too, Michelle, for that. And we try to work. It's a second job to us here at the plant, taking care of the pump stations right now. But we did not get a chance yet to film. We're having a hard time finding a mechanic out there. So we're doing the pump stations out of this facility right here, right now.
Okay.
Any other
You're cutting
questions?
in and out. You're saying that you were looking still for another mechanic?
Yes, the city, Jackie DeSico posted the job about 3 weeks ago, and we got 0 applicants. So I asked her to try to bring the qualifications down. Maybe we could bring them in as a maintenance mechanic 2 instead of maintenance mechanic 3. So I haven't been back to her because we've been busy and we're doing the budget. So I'm going to touch base with her this week after this. You're welcome.
Okay, with that, I think we can thank you, Alan, for all the good work you're doing down there and for preparing what looks to be a very favorable budget. Very challenging, but you have our best wishes.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody, for your time. And if you have any questions, please, as I said every year, I can't hand out my budget this year or my card to you, but please give me a call if you have any questions. And I'm sure we'll be in touch soon because we have the other project going on at the plant that I want to talk to everybody about after all the budgets are done. So everybody,
We know where to find you.
Thanks, Doug. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, with that, let's move on to Department of Public Works, as seen on the final sheet in the packet, which is a roll-up of all 19 departments within DPW. The total is a favorable variance of $450,383. And of course, there are some large put and takes within the individual departments, but that's the roll-up of the whole department. Favorable $450,383. And as you'll see when we get to the capital plan, it's a capital plan of $990,000. So if we can move the department by department through DPW, starting with administration, which is sheet 1 on the variance sheet, page 105 in the budget book, we're looking at a variance there of $68,995. And, the biggest item that I would see first off is a favorable variance in seasonal employees, line item 111. And Ed, I don't want to preempt. If you'd like to make any opening comments, go ahead, please.
Okay, well, first I'd like to thank Alan for doing his good work down there, as always. Secondly, I know that, we've discussed this before with how we're going to be approaching this budget this year. Shooting for that 10%, it was definitely a challenge. So with that in mind, the same things you looked at Allen's with the fluctuation, it's mainly us chiseling down to the number that we feel is appropriate, squeezing out everything we can get out of it, and then hope for the best here. John and I looked this over, as well as Ryan and myself and Mary Jo, and we hit pretty much rock bottom on some things, but hopefully this works out. So Doug, if you want to kind of go by, since this is really your way of doing this, because it's a little bit different than ours here in DPW. So I'll take your lead as you want to go through this and answer anything that you see fit. Anybody wants to talk about?
Yeah, I would just ask Tony. I would just ask I'm looking at the big items in here, the big differences, and one that stands out is line 111, seasonal employees, favorable with $23,000. Ed, you with me? Yeah. How do we get by with so fewer seasonal employees?
It's 2 people for 26 weeks. So that's basically what we got. It's stand by a second.
I mean, basically, you cut out all seasonal employees.
Can I jump in here, Doug?
I'm talking about line 111, John.
Yeah, I believe that one was a reclassification, because this department, this is an admin. Those seasonal workers aren't really doing admin work. So these are the employees, Ed, that we moved over to refuse and garbage.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, so we put 24.5 over in Department 8160.
Yeah, I realize in this total budget, there are large swings, both positive and negative, and often that's the case. You're moving from one department to another.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm questioning that it can happen. I just want to understand it, that's all.
Yeah.
Tony, you had a question?
Classification for those employees.
Yes, I have a couple questions here. One, and why is the regular pay down? And it doesn't look like it seems like you have the same amount of employees, Ed. So why is regular pay down almost $20,000, $18,000? Line item 101.
Yeah, 15,206.
Yeah, because we're going to be losing personnel with the buyout at the end of the year.
So you're gonna lose the personnel from, okay.
Yeah.
My other question is, and unless I want to get down to expenses, but if somebody else has something in above that, I'll hold off on my question if anybody has anything further up above. And if not, my question is in regard to vehicle fuel. It's down $10,000. And my question is, and you have to explain this to me, what is the standard? And I see a lot of people riding around in vehicles, public works vehicles, during the course of the day. Some have 2 in it, some have 1 person in it. And they're riding all over the place. I've gone past some work sites, and it's 3 or 4 vehicles there. And my question is why do so many people have vehicles, and that, and that they have 1 person in it? I've also seen vehicles out in the town of Ulster and not to say they're not out there in business, but if we're trying to tighten our budget, I would think, and I mean, I see your fuel went down by $10,000, and we could also tighten that up more if we didn't have so many vehicles out that just have one person in it, two people in it, and and sitting idle. So can you explain to me how that works?
Sure. So the vehicles with one person in it are typically a foreman, which, his job is to ride throughout the city, checking on other areas where other people are working. If we send people out to do a job, there would typically be, 1, 2, maybe 3 people in a vehicle. But with the COVID, we've cut back the amount of people that are, riding together as much as possible for safety's sake.
All right.
That's
again, I didn't, not working at DPW, and I didn't know the people who were writing about themselves are foremen and their responsibilities to go and check on projects that are going on throughout the city. All right, thank you.
Other questions on the DPW admin? Rennie?
Yeah, I'm seeing the line 472, I think it is, for contracted services. Looks like that's kind of gone down then gone up. Anything particular going on there?
Yeah, you'll have to bear with me because, again, the format in which Doug does this is different than our format. So I have to look at his and then go back and look at ours and kind of come up with the answers. Mary Jo, if you have our budget at the ready, maybe you can explain the breakdown of that a little bit.
It's really was just a change to make it more to what we're actually spending. So we're just cutting it down a little bit. There's no extra floating in that account at this point. Mm-hmm.
You're matching it to this year's expenditures, is more or less?
Yeah.
Okay.
My follow-up question, what is contracted services?
Yeah.
If you could explain to some people who might not have, this might be their first budget.
Do you want me to give you some of the expenses that are in there?
Yeah.
A big part of this is not the Nikon, the portable radios, and the equipment. It's also Ulster uniform for the uniforms, telemessaging. Those are the big ticket items. That's over 55,000 of that, or almost 55,000 of that number.
Again, the roll up for the DPW administration is favorable by $68,995, which is great. Other questions? Let's move to buildings and grounds, page 109 in the budget book, sheet 2 of the variance sheets. This is a big unfavorable $213,855, which is 300% increase, 300% of last year's expenses. So that's a big one. I see big increases in seasonal employees and large increases in contracted expenses. $300,000, $213,000. That's a big nut. What's happening there? Is this reclassifications or
yes,
what?
This is transferring stuff from the parks and what was Parks and Rec back to DPW.
Say again, transfer from where?
This is things that used to be the Parks and Rec department, which are now under DPW.
Okay, yeah, I noticed there's some big swings in Parks and Rec also,
Yes.
which may compensate these. I don't have that in front of me now, but I did notice that.
Doug, Mary Jo had her hand up.
Who has a hand up? Sorry.
Mary Jo.
Mary Jo, sorry. Mary Jo?
Yeah, you're going to see most of this has been taken from, in the parks, account number 7110, was parks, under Parks and Rec, which is now under DPW. So I'm not sure you might have that with you today, because it's really it was part of the Parks and Recreation budget, but now it's become part of the DPW budget. So it's been transferred over, most of it, not all, has been transferred over to Buildings and Grounds.
Yeah, I did notice that.
So that's why there's such a big jump, because it's a merging of two accounts.
Okay. Well, we'll see that on the Parks and Rec night.
Yes.
Yeah, but I did see that. And I thought that was probably the answer. A big swing like this is not that they're spending a lot more money, but it's just moving from coming out of one pocket as opposed to another pocket.
Correct.
Okay. Moving on.
Tony has his hand up.
Who?
Tony.
Tony?
One of you, Mary Jo, Ed, and the seasonal employees again go up. How many seasonal employees does this constitute?
In this particular one, we do have seasonal money in other accounts, but this particular account, it accounts for 2 employees that should be working more in the rail trails in the city-owned properties.
Mm-hmm.
To be working about 20 hours a week or so, approximately 24 weeks. That's a give or take number.
Mary Jo, then there's additional money in there. That was the original, I believe. And then you have some of the changes that were made. It's $88,400.
Well, that's in parks though, right, John? Not.
That's in Buildings and Grounds.
Okay.
88.4. So that's two seasonal employees and working about 20 hours a week for 26 weeks.
No,
Wait, I'm sorry, Tony.
No problem.
That was the original.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, this was
I apologize. I missed that. I had that mismarked on my paper. That's the combination of that. That was like partly for the rail trail, but it's also the park seasonal money. The seasonal people that get hired during the summer for maintenance.
I have a note of 5 employees. 3 employees, 40 hours a week, 24 weeks, $1,578 an hour. 2 employees at 20 hours a week, 24 weeks at $1,180 an hour.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay.
So it's 5 seasonal employees total.
Approximately, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to carpentry services, which shows a favorable variance of $12,604, most of which is coming from regular pay and benefits. Is there just a reduction of 1 or 2 people there?
One person is retiring, and that is the replacement at the bottom of the grade then. So he's at the top step, then this is a new employee at the bottom step.
Okay.
Or the entering salary.
I don't have any other questions on carpentry services. Does anyone else?
Which sheet are you on?
That was sheet 3, Rennie.
Thank you.
Doug?
Yes, Michelle?
I just had a question about line item 472 about the contracted services.
Which one for line item what?
472?
On carpentry services?
No, back to at Buildings and Grounds. Sorry.
Oh, you're going back to buildings and grounds.
Sorry.
All right, contracted serve buildings and grounds, 472. Yep.
That went up a lot. I was just curious.
There's several things in there. Tree removal, which was taken over from, some from parks, wood chips for playgrounds, emergency cell phones taken out of there. So there was some money moved over from the parks budget into there. That's why you probably see the biggest part of the jump.
Okay. Yeah.
Can we move on to flood and erosion control, sheet number 4? Basically no change. Expense went up by $146. Questions there? I would think not. Sheet 5, the garage, page 118 in the budget, showing a favorable variance of $98,601. Good news, mostly in the equipment line. 203 motor vehicles, $65,000. Other equipment line 211. How does that happen? Line 203 favorable by $65,000.
Yeah, Doug, that's something that was taken out of the budget that we had looked to get and didn't.
Bonding inventory. It was an item that was bonded for and then put in the regular budget, I believe.
And
Right,
now,
John?
now it's back on the capital plan.
Yeah. Just a note, kind of another common theme throughout the budget is last year was one of the first years we're able to appropriate fund balance. If you recall some changes that were made during the council's review of the budget, we're able to a significant amount of fund balance to fund some of the capital, particularly the equipment that would have been otherwise bonded. That wasn't a possibility this year. So you will see some 0.2 accounts that are lower. Keep in mind last year, as part of the 2020 budget, those items were paid for through an appropriation of fund balance.
Okay.
Okay.
Randy, you have Randy? Randy, you're muted. Randy, you mute.
I pressed something. Line 206 says computer software. What kind of software are y'all purchasing there? I'm just curious.
Yeah, Rennie, that's back in the garage. That's going to be the software for the equipment, for being able to diagnose problems with motors and whatnot. And most of the newer equipment that we have is all electronically controlled. So we have to have the software in order to, troubleshoot problems.
Okay, thanks.
On the garage, hospital and medical up. I'm sorry, that's favorable. Okay. I don't have any more questions on the garage. Anyone else?
Steve Shabbat had his hand up.
Steve?
You got to unmute yourself, Steve.
I lost my spot here.
Wait.
Oh, I think vehicle maintenance went down. Is that for the same reason? Because these vehicle maintenance is now going to be shifted over. So why has vehicle maintenance gone down?
It hasn't. It's the same.
All right. Okay.
You're talking about line 444?
You're no longer going to have a lot of the vehicles, right?
Steve, what line
444.
item are you talking about?
Some of the vehicles. some of the vehicles are being moved, right?
Vehicle maintenance shows no change. They're talking about line 444 in the garage.
Vehicle maintenance is remaining at $12,000. Hasn't changed.
Are you maybe looking at building maintenance, Steve?
Right. Okay. No, I was looking at. All right, forget I asked that. I was going at a different, going at something different. Forget I said that.
I have a question, Doug. Doug, I have a question. Why is there no vehicle fuel showing up here in expenses for the garage? There's no vehicle fuel line. Am I missing it? Or do you not have vehicle fuel underneath this particular account?
Yeah, it's negligible at best, and it's not on here.
I'm sorry, Tony, you're talking about vehicle fuel, like for the trucks? That's out of the admin account. All of the vehicle fuel goes to the one account in 1490.
And where would that be at?
In 1490, 426.
All righty, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, $110,000 in 426. Yeah, okay. Can we move from the garage? Again, favorable variance of $98,601, mostly from transfer of motor vehicles. Sheet 6 is landfills. Page 128 in the budget book. A small positive variance of $3,098, mostly in contracted expenses. Not a big amount here. Any questions here? Expenses favorable by 0.3% and revenues up 4%, giving us a small positive variance. Move on. Yes, Michelle?
I just wanted to ask if we're paying higher tipping fees at all since going to single stream and people aren't recycling and throwing out their recyclables into the garbage, and then the garbage is mixed and we have to pay.
We are okay. So we are on a downtick on that. The prices, the tipping fees have gone up slightly. I think there were 103 last year, and I think they're tapping 105 this year. Some of the other stuff with the recycling being contaminated, where they normally would not charge us for the recycling, if it's contaminated, it will have to be put out on the regular floor with the trash, and then we will pay that fee, the tonnage based on the contaminated stuff. But it had been trending down, and so it is making a difference that people are actually recycling, but there's always that few that that can't get it together, and it's you start getting the repeat customers, and we are trying to educate and inform and take action when necessary.
Thank you.
Okay, if we could, let's move on to sheet number 7, which is maintenance of streets. Page 116 in the budget book. Here we're looking on a total positive variance. Good news, $150,444. But there's some big swings here.
Hey, look, the second page is 150.
I guess equipment Motor vehicles is that a reclassification? Line item 203, $137,000 difference. You're muted, Ed.
Oh, sorry, John, you want to kick in on this one? Again, this is stuff that was rolled over.
Line item 203, John. John, you're muted.
On 5110 203.
5110, line 203, motor vehicles.
Right. So those items were items that were included in the budget last year. That once again, all the capital or most of the capital for DPW this year, I say this year being 2021, is part of the capital request. You will not find it in the operating budget.
Again, expenses are favorable by a little over 10%, but the revenues are up by 27.8%. Maintenance of streets up by $45,000. Where does that come from?
That's coming from our street opening permits, insurance recovery. Every time Central Hudson opens a hole in the street, they buy a permit, and that's our source of revenue.
Okay, Tony, question?
Line item 101 there, regular pay, Ed, has gone up. And can you explain? Looks like you're hiring one additional person on that street maintenance, but it's up, and recommend it's up, and it's even up more than what you requested. So then that's why I have another flag. You requested 289 and it's recommended 413. Can you explain that? And that's up from 377 from last year.
Those are from 3 vacant positions.
So then why is that not showing? So you're looking to hire 3 additional people?
No, they're replacements.
Oh, they replaced them. They're vacant, and now you're going to fill them.
Correct.
And that's why it's not showing any additional personnel on this thing.
Correct.
Mary Jo?
Yeah, they were people that had retired this past year, and we hadn't filled the spots.
So now you plan on filling the spots. So this is their be the salary that whoever comes in at.
Right. So they're not. Yeah. So they're not additional per se, but they are going to get filled now.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, we had, I think, 7 vacancies, and we're only backfilling 3 of them.
Okay. Line item 487, construction materials and supplies is favorable by over $25,000. How's that happening?
We had to get to our budgetary requirements somehow, so I had to cut wherever I could.
But can it really, I understand, you mean it's a plug or it's something that will really happen?
I'm not following, Doug.
My question is this, Ed, you show a $25,000 reduction in construction materials and supplies. And I want to know how does that happen? I mean,
that's how you're going to come back for more money later.
Right. Now, if this was what we had projected to, originally had projected to, as our projects across the city, will we have as many this coming year? Probably not.
So
Yeah,
this looks similar to 2019, right? So this figure is not completely out of whack. It was higher last year.
Correct.
Okay. So it's within line.
Michelle?
I have a question on line 2560 for revenue street opening permits. Is there a project coming up that we know that would be creating this revenue?
Well, this is anticipated for past with Central Hudson, what their targets are for the next few years coming in with their gas line replacement. And that's really what we can kind of count on. But also contractors for doing sewer repairs and anybody else, any other utility work throughout the city.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's showing revenue increases of 27.8%. That sounds, well, that's good if it happens, but it, okay, positive variance of $150,444. Again, I'm reminding everybody the roll up of all 19 departments within DPW is a favorable $450,383. So we're just going through the puts and takes here. Some are big, some are big favorable, some are big unfavorable, but on balance, they balance out to some very favorable number. And a lot of it is due to transfers. I understand that. Okay, move on to sheet 8, community service pike plan, page 135 in the budget book. Favorable variance at $2,700. A little bit favorable for contracted expenses. Any questions there? I think we can move on from that. Okay. Sheet 9, recycling, page 129 in the budget book. A small positive variance of $22,495. Expenses favorable by 3.2%, but revenues up, well, it's a small base, 50%, but it's only $500. I don't.
Where is that coming from? Why the increase?
That's coming from the ordinance officer doing the fines for the recycling.
Say it again, Ed. What is that for?
That's for the violations for the recycling, contaminated recycling, and when the ordinance officer goes out and inspects, or the trucks call in that they have contaminated recycling bins, the ordinance officer goes out, checks on them, issues violations when necessary. We did have a pretty long amount of time this spring and into the summer where we didn't give any violations due to the COVID, but we recently started going back into it again.
Okay. The only question I would have on recycling is line 444. Vehicle maintenance is gone up by $6,000.
Yeah, that's every year the trucks get older, and every year they need more maintenance to keep them rolling. That's all that is.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Rita?
Yeah, going back to the fines. Ed, how much is a typical fine for violations?
Yeah, 25 for recycling.
Okay, thanks.
Incremental.
Move on. Steve Shabbat?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this is really not a lot of money, but just out of curiosity, John is probably more equipped to handle it. Do people pay these fines, or are they just kind of hanging out there? The recycling fines, do they come in and pay them? And what's the penalty if they don't pay them? Do we stop picking up their garbage?
Well, first, thanks, Steve. First, they pay them the Public Works. Mary Jo could probably give you a better idea as to the collection rate. But if they are unpaid, they actually get re-levied. A lot of these get re-levied, and the council votes on that every year. So that is the city has.
Okay.
The collection rate is a little bit, I would say, on the low side. We do invoice them out on a weekly basis. But then, like John said, they do get re-levied. So the city does recoup it through the re-levy process. And then there's the penalty on top of that, so.
Okay.
Okay. Move on. Refuse and garbage. This is sheet number 10, page 124 in the budget book. A small unfavorable variance of $3,858. Expenses unfavorable by 1.8%. Revenues up 17.7% from a small base. I don't see any big changes here. Does anyone else? Vehicle maintenance, and I think we understand that. Oh, seasonal employees, line item 111. Line item 111, seasonal.
Yeah, those are two that got moved from the, what was that, the 111? Or 1490, excuse me.
Yeah, 1490.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about, oh, okay. It got moved into, it got moved from 8160 into admin.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Move on. Safety officer, sheet number 11, page 114.
Doug,
Yes, Tony.
before you go, you should always just look up to see if everybody has their hands up and everybody's ready to move on. And because we're still on, and then that gets everybody confused where we're at. Refuse and garbage, 8160. You got an additional 10,000 in revenue there. Refuse charge, and can you explain that, Mary Jo or Ed? Line item 2133.
That's the additional refuse totes, Tony. The one, if we give out the one per parcel.
Okay.
And people can have the opportunity to purchase additional totes, and we've kind of seen a slight uptick in that.
All righty, so people are coming in and getting extra totes.
Correct, yep.
That's usually apartment buildings or something?
I'm sorry?
That's usually for apartment buildings?
Not always. Sometimes it's just duplexes, mostly duplexes.
Okay,
because the people live on each side and they don't like to share.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving on. Steve Shabbat?
Mary Jo. Yep. This is for Mary Jo, I guess. So when people buy the new totes, do we have them on hand? We have to buy them. So if we have to buy them, to fill orders, it should show as an expense somewhere, right?
We have them.
Or do we have these on hand?
Yes, we have a small stock of them.
Okay.
Rita.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. So for folk that are sharing the totes, and not purchasing new totes, but the garbage is, there's more garbage that can fit into the totes and they're putting them on the ground. Are they receiving fines for that?
Yes, through our code enforcer, yes. If she sees it, she goes out before the trucks do, early in the, she's out about a half an hour more ahead of the run, and she'll go investigate the run and see if anybody has any excessive trash or if anything's wrong. And then she writes it up and brings it back to the office, and then we invoice it.
Okay, but now is that acting as a deterrent, or is it still happening? Are people then going to get the totes?
Sometimes it takes a bit to be a deterrent. And sometimes it's a one-off thing. They might have an additional bit of trash that week, and it doesn't happen again. But if it's the repeat offenders, sometimes it just takes the landlord, to get a violation a couple times, and then they tend to come get a tote.
Okay, so the fine then is not assessed to the tenant; it's assessed to the landlord. The violation is sent to the landlord, not to the tenant. We don't have the tenant information. We only have who's the owner of the property. That's who we send it to. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we move on to safety officer, sheet number 11, page 114 in the budget book. The positive variance here is $15,029. And I don't understand, it comes mostly from line 821, hospital and medical. But I don't, why is that? I don't see it. It doesn't appear to be a change in head count.
Yeah, Doug, I'm looking at that now. I don't have an explanation for that right now.
It's the composition, Doug, of who's actually in that position. It's a different employee in that position. The person who was in that position retired. So you will see that. I mean, you're going to see throughout the budget, you'll see some differences in hospital and medical. It could be because there's a different employee assigned in that position or positions. And sometimes it's a change of life circumstances. It's somebody who goes from a individual plan to a family plan, or family plan to an individual plan. Okay. I'd like to avoid going into the specifics on those. But certainly if you have questions, feel free to contact me.
I understand. Yeah. I see it. Okay.
Tony has a question.
Tony?
Yes. Holy cow, just lost it. Oh God, just lost it. Oh, who is the safety officer? I have these questions here. Who is the safety officer?
Yeah, the safety officer's name is Kenneth Sickler.
Because the safety officer was
Diane.
So you got a safety officer, Ken Sickler. Okay. Yep. All right. Thank you.
Okay, we move on to sheet 12, which is shade trees.
Right. Doug, this is not ours.
It's not? Whose is it? It's under DPW. John?
It's governed by the planning department, Doug.
Okay. But how did it end up under DPW in the budget book? It just did. Okay, that's all right. It's planning. Okay.
Yeah, John, you can answer that one. It's all you, brother.
No problem. If that's it, we'll take care of it.
I think this comes up every year when we do the budget. That's shade tree, and it's like I was looking at DPW. So I don't know why it doesn't get moved.
Yeah,
we got out of that one, Ed.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Sheet 13, which is snow and ice removal. Page 120. Expenses reduced by $96,000, which is 30%. most of which from construction materials and supplies again.
Yeah, that, Doug, we trimmed that down based on what our overtime was last year. Cut that a little bit, and then also on salt being, we're taking a gamble here right now. We have a full salt shed. We still have a bit of an open PO for this year. So if we get a storm before the first of the year, I can refill it without any cost to the 2021 budget. We didn't use any earlier in the year. So, I'm hoping we can get away with what we got.
Okay, so we're going into this fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's got to come from somewhere, and this is one of those places. It's all weather dependent, and being as I have a full shed, I can't stockpile any more because I don't have any area to keep it. So, like I said, we have enough on a PO, an open PO, that if we do get a storm or two before the first of the year, I will be able to replenish in full, and then hopefully be able to make it through the rest of the season without going over.
How about line 103, overtime pay? That showed $29,000 favorable. Is that fingers crossed also?
Well, that's a little fingers crossed, and based on what our what we had the trend was from last year and the year before.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, thank you. Move on to sheet 14, which is solid waste management facility, page 126. Expenses up $26,738, which is a little over 31%. Most of which is hospital and medical. Is that different? Again, John, like you were referring to before, different, what do you call it, life stories or requirements?
Yeah, the personnel had the staffing levels have not changed. So once again, it's just dependent on, what plan they're on or whether or not they're getting a buyout.
But line 401 regular pay is about the same. The staffing increase?
I'm saying the staffing level is the same. The staffing level is the same, Doug, but each year you could have an employee who is taking a buyout for health insurance one year, and then their life circumstances changed where they may not be able to take the buyout the following year, then they're on the city insurance.
Okay. Again, it's a life.
Yeah.
So it's a life circumstance reason.
Yeah. I mean, hospital, medical, if the staffing is the same, that's the answer.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions there, anyone? Tony.
And why is this solid waste management? Why is that fall on DPW and not wastewater treatment? What's the difference here?
It's garbage.
Oh, I'm thinking this waste. I'm thinking wastewater. Okay, sorry.
One word answer. I like that.
Get your waist straight, Tony.
Okay, I'll move on to sheet 15, which is storm sewers. Small uptick, favorable, $4,885. Again, construction materials and supplies.
What page, Doug, on the thing?
This is sheet 15, Tony, page.
That's what we need to know. Thank you.
Yes, again, this is, based on what our projected projects would be for the coming year. Tightening our belts a little bit, and what I already have in stock.
Sheet 16, street cleaning, page 131 in the budget book. Services. Looks like